Going on, everybody? It is I, Coach Dom, with my beautiful co-host, Coach Kiani, and we are back with another amazing episode of the No BS Fitness Prescription Podcast. Today we have strength and conditioning coach Veronica Zukala. She is a prescript educator, and lately she is a sprinting beast. She is going to be telling us more about her origin, where she's from, how she got into prescript, things of like neuroscience and adapting to athletes. And then we're going to dive into where she's at right now, working with athletes getting ready for this upcoming NFL Combine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. It'll be fun.
Awesome, awesome. We're happy to have you. Happy to have you. So first and foremost, let's just start off with the basics. Tell us a little bit of who you are, where you're from, and what got you originally into, we'll just say, baseline fitness.
Yeah. I'm from and still currently live in Ottawa, Canada. Though, sorry, I will say, just talking with it to you guys about I am in Tampa right now for our prescript level 3 course that we have. But from Ottawa, so born and raised there. It's currently very cold and very snowy. And so growing up, I suppose how I just got in the movement in general. I have an older brother and he was my idol growing up. I wanted to do everything he did, and he was a multi-sport athlete. So, because I wanted to be like him, I started playing a lot of sports. Like from, I think I started skating at the age of 3. We were rocking mini sticks and basketball in the house and on the driveway for from the time I can remember, even like walking and thinking for the first time. So, always grew up as a sports fan, played multiple sports through high school, and then when I got to university, I became a typical washed up athlete. So I started playing just a lot of beer leagues and just doing it for fun, intramurals through the school. But I was hitting the gym like once or twice a day because when you're in university, you have a lot more free time than you think. Like I had a part-time job going, but like if you're good at managing your time, which because I grew up playing multiple sports, like, I got pretty good at managing my time. You got a lot of free time in the day. And so I was hitting the gym once or twice a day, and a trainer came up to me one day at Good Life and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about being a personal trainer?" And at the time, this was after I finished my undergrad. I was taking a year off before starting my master's. I was working part time at the hospital, hated sitting at a desk, hated the fact that I was just doing research telling people that they were unhealthy and not actually doing anything to help people. And so when the opportunity came up to work in a gym, I thought, you know what, this is an awesome setting. I'd really love to do this. Originally just started out as a job where I said, all right, when I finished my master's degree, because I was simultaneously working as a trainer and working towards my master's degree in neuroscience, I said, all right, at the end of these 2 years, I want a fancy piece of paper and enough money for a down payment on a house. And so that that's was the initial goal. And about 6 weeks into being a trainer, I said, nah, this is it for me. This is it. So I still finished my master's degree. I went through uh, my thesis and defended it, which was awesome. It was a very big accomplishment. But then once I was done that, I just poured everything I had into this as a career. So now we're here.
Okay. All right. So with that, when you first got more into strength and conditioning, was there a moment specifically that you realized traditional coaching approaches weren't enough, and that made you somewhat take neuroscience and merge the gap together?
Yeah. So it's funny. When I was doing my undergrad, I double minored in both neuroscience and psychology. I found the dichotomy of the two really fascinating because it's kind of like a chicken or the egg. You can't have one without the other. Your mind drives your body, body drives the mind. And to understand them both on a principles level, like for the neuroscience is obviously more like cellular and physiology. For the psychology, it's obviously more that mindset piece. Um, but I found that really interesting. And so when I thought about doing a master's degree, funny enough, it was during the pandemic, and I had 3 options because I got into 3 different programs for my master's. One was kinesiology, which in hindsight would have been way more like tied technically to what I do now.
Right.
Another one was epidemiology, which is funny because I probably would have gotten a job during the pandemic if I had a master's degree in epidemiology, the study of disease. And then the third one was neuroscience. And I just loved the department at my school so much. I went to Carleton University. The neuroscience department was so cool. Every class I was so infatuated with. And so I didn't really go in with the intention of trying to tie it into exercise. Even when I started my job at Good Life, I was kind of just at a point in my life where I was like, I'm just going to do what feels good, what feels right. I know that I love to be in the gym. I know I love to move and talk to people. So this seems like a really good job. I think this is the direction I need to be in. And then when it came to picking a discipline for my master's, I thought, I want to pick the thing that I'm the most interested in learning about because that means I'm going to try harder. And so I ended up picking neuroscience. And then I found a way to tie it together over the last 8 years, which is nice.
Okay, okay. Um, let's see. What when you say you found a way to tie it together, can you tell us more on how you feel you put that to be kind of like your niche in what you do right now?
Yeah, it's understanding the neural correlates of motor learning, right? So understanding skill acquisition, understanding neuroplasticity. I find another big thing is understanding pain. So nociception and pain are two different things. Nociception is a signal that the brain receives that travels very slowly. Pain is what our brain perceives that signal to be. And so we might be hurting, but our hurt is really being manipulated by our previous experiences, what our coaches are telling us, what the people around us are telling us, what we're telling ourselves. And so that's not necessarily a direct reflection of the signal that we're receiving from that tissue to our brain. And that does not mean that pain should be invalidated. It should absolutely be validated, even more so, because everything around you is influencing it. However, I found particularly, I went through a partial ACL tear a year and a half ago now. And it was interesting because as I was going through my rehab process, I really got to pull that principle into fruition with my own body in real time because there was a point where my tissue was damaged. And so I needed to be very mindful of how I moved and the rehab process I was going through and the strength movements I was doing to get better. About 3 months later, you're still experiencing pain and discomfort, but I had to remind myself as my rehab process went on that my tissues were healed. So whatever pain I'm feeling doesn't actually have to do with the tissue being damaged. It has to do with something else. And as soon as I reminded myself of that, my pain would go away. Like mid exercise, I'd just tell myself, hey, like your tissues are fine. Whatever discomfort you're feeling is coming from something else. So your tissues are fine. And I would keep executing the movement and my pain would go away. And so, again, tying that to the psychology piece, I found it really interesting. So I was really grateful actually that, knock on wood, it doesn't happen again. But going through that injury myself, I was able to really I think I'm able to have that empathy now for my athletes because I've helped rehab countless ACLs before and people coming out of surgery. And so to actually go through it, and again, every case is going to be different. Mine wasn't surgical, so totally different than a surgical case. But to have even just that little bit of understanding and that empathy, I think is going to make me a better coach. And understanding the neuroscience and the principles behind pain also helped me personally rehab as well. So,
I think that's very profound because when you're working with athletes or just even like general population, people may have like aches and pains that come up, and they may want to like cancel a session or not want to do certain movements because they're having these things, but that doesn't necessarily correlate to tissue damage. So how would you explain that to a client? Like they're coming in, they may have had a back injury before, and now like they're scheduled to do a session, but they're kind of like afraid.
yeah, yeah. So I would tell them that in the particular instance, I explained to them, okay, there is a difference between pain and tissue damage. So we like to link them together because pain doesn't necessarily mean that the tissue is actually damaged. It can mean that, but when we talk about it, we usually go through, I have a pretty in-depth intake process with a bunch of questions that I ask people. And so I usually know their injury history going into it. Um, and if they have any current injuries, I always ask if I can see their MRI results or their X-rays. And not necessarily, I'm not a clinician, so I can understand the language in them. I can read them pretty well. I'm not here to diagnose or like tell them what to do as a result. But what I like to see is if they hand me a hard piece of paper, I know because I can read on that piece of paper whether or not it's actual tissue damage or not. And so I'll usually ask for the piece of paper, MRI or X-ray results, whatever they got, and if it says tissue tear, then I look at timelines, figure that out. And then I don't actually ever tell them, your tissue's fine, keep going. Because that also doesn't really help people. That's part of the coaching piece, right? Like there's a difference between understanding the knowledge and then actually coaching a human being. But what I tell them is if I know their tissue isn't damaged, then I'll say, okay, look, there is something that we can do here to help you move to feel better. This position or this particular exercise might not feel good, but because we know that it's been X amount of time, we know that there are going to be positions that we can put your body in that do feel good. So let's just focus on finding those and work from there. And usually that gets enough buy-in, because then my next thing is to put them in a position that I know that they can execute and build that confidence back. And that's done through graded exposure, right? So if I think let's say I have someone that's really proficient at executing a barbell back squat, but they were dealing with a disc issue. And so their back's been lit up. So I'm going to put them through, let's say it's been a couple months, we worked through rehab. I'm going to put them in a split squat isometric, body weight. Because if they're really proficient at barbell back squatting and they're not experiencing like the constant day-to-day pain before, like if you had a back injury or you've hurt your back, you know how debilitating it can feel. Everything just locks up. So if we're not in that place where everything's locked up, we've loosened up some tissues, body's moving a little more fluidly. If somebody can execute a barbell back squat, they can hold their body in space for 10 seconds at a time in a body weight split squat. So I'm going to get them to do that. And that builds confidence. It's, oh, my hips can get that low without pain. Okay, that's good. Then maybe we load it next time. Then maybe we put them into a goblet squat. And then before you know it, I'm starting with something that I know they can execute and then moving from there. Because at that point, we're playing with the psychology of it and building up confidence through graded exposure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I love that. I just asked because some of our listeners, they have these injuries and then they kind of don't know how to go about it. And I think sometimes we focus too much on what we can't do instead of what we can do. So I think that's great. And then I think that kind of, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that kind of changes our perceived how we perceive the signal, and
100%.
that allows them to do more. So
Absolutely.
I love that.
So we have these intermediate signals, right? If nociception is really, really slow and high intensity exercises are really, really fast, what's in between? How can we transition from the slow signal to this fast signal so that, because if I jump from slow to fast, my body's going to seize up and say, no, thank you, because it's afraid. It's afraid that I'm going to get hurt again. So if I can find this intermediate signal, and for example, I'll use myself as an example more so I don't have to put all my clients on blast today, even though they don't mind. But when I tore my ACL, I literally day after I was in the gym doing glute bridges. And you know what? It was a little bit uncomfortable, but I could execute it. And the more I did them, the less uncomfortable it got. So I was like, okay, this is a position I can be in. And at this point, I'd been lifting for a decade. So a glute bridge is not a hard exercise for me to execute in general. But when you're injured, it's a place I can start to build back up with that baseline. So absolutely. And I love what you said there. That's perfect. And my manager used to say that at the commercial gym I worked at all the time. It's like, don't focus on what you can't do, focus on what you can do. And I love that. It's true. Because that's where we need people to come in and move. Your question before was, how do you get people in and how do you get them feeling good when they're injured? It's like, look, there is something that you can do. If you don't do anything, it's going to get worse.
How did you get into working with like higher level athletes?
So I took Prescript level 3 as a student 2 years ago. And that was my first exposure to being in a room with athletes like this. And it was really cool to see the environment that they've created at Yo Murphy Performance Center here in Tampa. Is the culture's insane. It's a family in there and they're there to work. Like it's a total, they're not a lot of places exist like that, I don't think. And so I've been to a lot of gyms and there's one YMP. So after being in that type of environment, that's when my career trajectory kind of shifted. So I had worked with a handful of athletes before, but it wasn't a total career trajectory I had in mind until I was in that room. And I was like, I'm in a room full of people that are the best at what they do, and everyone's working their butts off to get better at it. And I was like, that's what I'm trying to do with my career. That's what I want to do as a coach. I want to be the best coach that I can possibly be. So, okay, maybe I have to work with the best athletes. So that was my first intro to it. When I came back, I suppose I did a good enough job as a student/intern that Prescript ended up hiring me as one of their educators after, which was awesome, dream come true. I've always loved teaching. And so now to be able to teach something that I love this much is so cool. And through that, I've just built a lot of connections. I've traveled to visit coaches. I've had athletes come to see me. And so my roster is kind of over the last 2 years transitioned into more athlete heavy, and just finding exposure where I can, whether it's through YMP, visiting other coaches, having teams come to me, having athletes come to me, working with people online. And so that's kind of how I got into it. I got a taste for it when I came here for the first time 2 years ago and didn't want to let it go. So
Awesome. So with that, um, going out there with Yo and everything, who are some of your biggest influences, your mentors, coaches, research, even some of the athletes that you've worked with that have made you realize that, like, hey, I'm finally doing the right things.
yeah, yeah. So huge shout out to Killian Hamilton, who works both for Yo Murphy Performance and Prescript. Uh, he's a big bridge for us there, but he was my coach when I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions. He was my S&C coach when I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions 3 years ago. And that shifted how I was moving in the gym. That's when I really started to move away from traditional strength training and started training the way I was now. Because I went out for my first BJJ comp and I was strong because I cut weight for my first one. And so, because I went down a weight class, I was stronger than the rest of the girls that I was competing against, but I was so slow on the mats. And it was insane. I was like, how do I get more explosive? After coming out of that comp, I was already thinking, okay, I think there's a better way to train here. Was training my traditional strength training, and 2 weeks later I threw out my back in a deadlift because I tried to deadlift weight that I could when I was 20 pounds heavier. It was just like very much oversight on my part. I hadn't thought about like the volume, the weight cut. I was just trying to get my workout in so I could go on to my next client. And I was like, man, that was really dumb. Okay, maybe this like bilateral sagittal plane movement that I keep executing in the gym isn't what I need to perform well in the sport. And so I reached out to Killian. He programmed for me for about a year. And that's where I started to integrate like plyos, change of direction, a lot more frontal plane movement and transverse plane movement. So I was moving my body in different ways that were more transferable to sport. And so that's how I started training this way. So Killian gets a huge shout out. He's still a huge mentor for me now. When I have questions, I always reach out. Zach Vilner is another one for me. I went to go visit him when he was working in Texas with the women's basketball team there, the Texas
Yeah.
Longhorns. He's now with University of Miami working with the men's team. He's absolutely crushing it. But he was a huge influence for me as well. One of those people where he's just so genuine, so nice. I reached out to him just asking for a bit of advice. And right away, he was so welcoming. I said, hey, look, I'm in Texas. This was last year. I said, hey, look, I'm going to be in Texas next month. Any chance I can come shadow you? He was open to it. Such a nice guy. I learned a ton from him in the week that I was there visiting. Um, Another one, obviously, is going to be like Jordan and Jordan through Prescript, who are co-founders. The way that they approach exercise was different than anything else I'd seen. I'd taken a dozen certifications in the fitness industry before I even took my first Prescript course. And right away, I was like, oh, these guys, they're looking at it differently. They're not just telling you how to get from A to B. They're telling you how to look at everything around it and then make the best decision for that athlete in that moment or for that client in that moment, right? And so it's not just, hey, if you see this, you should do this, without actually understanding what's happening. It's no, here's the principles of biomechanics. Here's all the avenues of how we can approach exercise selection. Now you go. And so it does require you to like, you got to do the work and think about it. And it gets overwhelming a little bit at times when you're first taking the course. And it, over the years, has definitely developed me into the coach I am now. And then the final shout out I'm going to give, just because I could make this list really long, but the final shout out I'm going to give is actually to the current gym I work at. The owner, one of the owners, Sean, he and I worked together in the commercial setting when I first started 7.5, almost 8 years ago. And when you have someone in your circle that shows you how to turn this from a job into a career just by being an absolute workhorse and giving a shit about people, that's what he's great at. He works hard and he really cares about what he does and the people around him. And watching, he was a vet trainer when I started. And so seeing how he made a career for himself out of this job that I really liked, So like, okay, I'm gonna do what he's doing. And so he and I would compete with each other for like hours and sales and stuff at the commercial setting. We were both super competitive with it in a fun way. And then when we both got out of the commercial setting, we stayed in contact. And when he opened up his own spot, he said, "Hey, like this is me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't have any other coaches." And right away I was like, yeah, man, I'm here. I'm here for it. I want to jump on. I want to work alongside you again. We work really well together. And so when you have somebody like that, that shows you that, you know, some compassion and hard work goes a long way. And so definitely a shout out to Sean for that too. But yeah, so as far as influences, that's who I'd name.
Okay. What's the name of his facility?
Boombox Fitness
Okay.
in Richmond. So it's a little town within Ottawa. We've got our little community there, and it's awesome. It's so much fun. I get to bring my dog to work, which is another bonus, and so she's part of the gym fam too. But yeah, no, it's a good life.
Nice.
That's great. You mentioned that you were training for jujitsu. You wanted more explosive power, and you were doing like a lot of sagittal plane and bilateral movements. Can you talk about like the difference between just like working out for general health and then working out for a specific outcome? Because like with there's like more popularity with different like fitness events and things like that, and I feel like people don't understand how to actually train for a specific event versus just training to just improve your body composition.
Yeah,
Like how
yeah,
do you gain that
100%.
skill development?
So training for performance is you have to approach it differently because you need to perform well. And so you need to make sure that your high days are high, your low days are low, those workouts that you need to get after, because that's what's testing your skill for the event you're training for. You need to make sure that you are well prepared to execute on that day. So if I'm training jujitsu, getting ready for a tournament, I'm on the mats. Realistically, you should be on the mats like 5 times a week training because of my coaches out there know crazy coaching schedule. You're working a ton of hours. Can be hard to do that. So I committed myself when I was training for comps to going to jujitsu 3 days a week. Rest of the training, I made sure that my conditioning, my strength was taken care of in the gym because that was a daily thing for me. It's easy to fit it in between clients. So I made sure that on my training days, I that's how I approached it was I kept my high days high, low days low. So on days where I was going to jujitsu, I let myself like I wouldn't totally cook myself, but I let myself hit some high intensity at a low volume. That way I went in primed for my jujitsu. On days where I didn't have jujitsu or it was the day after, I'd give my body a bit more of a rest because if you've ever done jujitsu, you know that people just pull on your joints for an hour and it really hurts at times. And so high days high, low days low, because I needed to go in and perform on the mats because that's what I was training for. If I went in absolutely bagged because my legs and my quads were tight, I'm not going to be able to perform on the mats. Not to mention when somebody goes to pull on my joints, I'm probably going to have a higher chance of getting hurt if I got that much muscle tone from everything being so tight. So you need to set yourself up to perform. So even for these hybrid events that are getting really big now, like these uh, CrossFit kind of style or like these high rocks workouts that are going down. I'm watching people just cook themselves every time they go into the gym. And I'm like, man, that ain't it. You got to go in and you got to plan, okay, this particular workout, like my Wednesday workout is kind of like the most that's going to be my heaviest workout of the week because that's where I'm going to push the capacity and I'm going to push that lactic acid in my muscles. Okay, then let your Wednesday workout cook you. Still move on Thursday and Friday, but do some lower impact stuff, some lower intensity stuff. Like people are just coming in and just going hard from A to B. They don't understand that when it's a higher intensity, you need a longer break. Lower intensity, you can take shorter breaks. People just want to go, go, go. And I get it, but you got to be smart so that you can actually perform at the sport or the event you're training for.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is like a lot of people don't. Everybody's so engulfed into the world of go, 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 especially even when you look at general fitness. Everybody thinks more is better.
Mm-hmm.
So, they'll go hard for 5 or 6 weeks and burn out, then they don't know what to do next. Then they're
Yeah.
wondering why they're injuring something or hurting something and not getting the results that they want to get. And then
Yeah.
many people, you try to give them the correct structure, like you said, with the high-low model. And on a low day, for a lot of people, that's not enough,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. A great example too is the gym I work at. I watched him interact with some of our members because we have some members. They have like realistically these members that are signing up for races. They've got day jobs. They've got kids. Like when they come in, the gym is their release, and so that's why they want to go go go. They want to shut off their brain for an hour and just sweat.
Right.
Totally get it. But he had them doing some speed work one day. We got new assault runners in, and so he had them doing 120s, I think it was. And when you're going all out for a 120, you need a break after. And so
Yeah.
he was watching them hop off the runner, 30 seconds later, go back on, come off, 30 seconds. And obviously their speed's dropping, dropping, dropping. And he goes up, he's like, hey, not the intention of the workout. Like, I need you to take a 3-minute rest here. I want your speed to stay the same. We're building up that capacity for you to hold a top speed. And if you're not taking the full rest, then what's the point? Like, I may as well just send you on a 5K if you don't want to take a rest. And that's training a totally different energy system. Like, that's not the same intention. And so when you're training for an event, you have to have intention across your workout week to account for all of that volume and to account for getting better at techniques and getting better with different energy systems. And so if you're not executing workouts accordingly, then you're just sewering yourself.
And a lot of people don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
fine. If you're just here for general fitness and like you don't have a specific goal and you just want to ruin yourself because you want to shut off your brain, hey, I'm here for it. Let's do it. I got a couple clients that are like that. They're like, I don't care what we're doing. I just don't want to think for the next hour. I'm like, sick. They're like, I don't want to think about what my husband said to me this morning. I don't want to think about what I have to make my kids for dinner. Just like talk to me about something else in life and make me sit on this machine. I'm like, sick. We can absolutely do that. But when people come in and they're have performance-based goals, there has to be more intention than just that.
Definitely.
You've worked with a lot of like great coaches and good mentors. What's something that you changed your mind on recently that you didn't initially think before when it comes to like training?
Ooh,
that's a great question. I think something that I've changed my mind on recently is, I think I mentioned a couple years ago, I changed my mind on, I thought that just regular, like traditional, good quality strength training could fix everything. And that's not the case. You need to be like, and even now being in this environment, I think the utility of exercises shifts based on the individual. And so that's something I'm going to say that has changed my mind more recently. Because sometimes, even with these combine athletes, the coaches in charge will have them do some exercises that most coaches out there would deem to be ridiculous and inefficient. But you know why it's in the workout in that moment? Because we need them to stay busy doing something without taxing them. And so I think that I used to have this mindset of there were bad exercises out there. And now I've shifted my mindset to say, no, there's no bad exercises. There's only bad intention for why something isn't a workout. And so I think good intentions allow for a place for every exercise, even if it seems absolutely ridiculous. If you can have a good reasoning, like a good understanding for why the athlete needs that in that moment, then we can't really harp on the exercise. Like I see, what was a good one from the other day? They were doing just like band pull aparts kind of in between sets. And I asked one of the coaches, I said, hey, like, because I always like to ask, I'm like, hey, what's the intention for that? And he said, I need them to not walk away from the gym floor. And so this is going to keep them busy until their next set without actually making them tired for their next set. And I was like, hey, fair enough. You know the room, you know your athletes. That's a great way to look at it. And so I think that's definitely changed my mindset recently. I was a bit of an exercise snob for a couple of years there, and now I'm like, nah, there's no bad exercises. It's the coach that makes it. And so if the coach has the right intention and knows their athlete well enough, you're good.
I like that. Mm-hmm. I think the rationale sometimes is what's missing, because depending on the population you're working with, sometimes, like you said, there's clients who are like, I don't really care what I do. Just give me something to do for an hour. And then you have people who are looking to get to a specific goal, but if you don't have a reason for everything you're doing in the program, it's kind of like you're just giving them busy work.
Yeah.
And it's no point. So yeah. I think, at least from the nutritional side of things, like with the Prescript course I took, it kind of gave you the tools to think critically about the decisions you're making instead of just randomly changing stuff without knowing why you're doing it or what you're doing it for.
100%, 100%. And I've got some clients that love to know the intention. They're like, hey, why are we doing this? Like some of my clients ask, hey, can you share like the spreadsheet with me? I'd love to see what we're doing like week over week in advance. I'm like, yeah, sure. Share it with them. And then other ones are like, I don't care. I know that you're doing it for a reason. So just tell me. But I think as coaches, we should have those answers when people ask. We should have that intention behind it. That's the difference between good and great. Like you can be a really good coach just by being good with people. I've seen it. I've worked in a ton of different gyms. You can be just a good human being and be fit enough, and people will follow you, and you can build a really solid client base. I see it all the time online too. I sometimes wonder, I'm like, I don't know how you make six figures doing this because there's not a ton of substance to it, but maybe it is in their head, right? And like maybe they do have that intention in their head and they're just not vocalizing it. But then you have these great coaches that I've been around and these rooms that I'm in, and you can feel it. Like there is a reason for everything, and they don't even have to explain it half the time, but they have that intention behind everything because they understand it on that deep level. And so we don't always have to explain why we're doing things to our clients, but we as coaches should definitely understand why we have selected those things.
Right. You've recently, from what I've seen on your page and whatnot, you've jumped down the rabbit hole of sprinting. So can you break down how you train speed differently from other strength and conditioning coaches? I mean, teaching speed is its own thing, we can say. Some people believe you can teach it. Some people believe that you can't teach it, that it's something that's, you're born fast and whatnot. What's your philosophy and thought process when it comes to that?
Yeah. So I started sprinting probably about a year and a half ago. It was after I kind of recovered from my ACL tear, I started sprinting. I had the intention of sprinting earlier than that. Like after I finished L3 for the first time is when I wanted to get into the world of sprinting because I watched them train for the 40. I was like, that's cool. That's something that's a gap in my wheelhouse too. Like I don't have that in my wheelhouse at all. That's a gap in my learning. And I want to be the best coach I can possibly be. So every time I find a gap, I try and fill it with some kind of either me applying it to my own body or learning about it, understanding it. And so came back from Tampa the first time. I was like, okay, I'm going to start sprinting. Sure enough, I tore my ACL, like not because of sprinting. It was playing sports in the summer, old cleats, bad field, not a great combo. I'm 30, so that also doesn't help. But not a great combo. Ended up with that partial tear, so that got delayed by a few months. But I started sprinting because I wanted to fill that learning gap that I felt I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I can say that like I teach it differently because I've learned from a lot of different people. And so I think that's how knowledge is, right? Like it's spread around. I don't think anyone really, I find it really weird when people name exercises after themselves because I'm like, somebody definitely did that before you. But you can go ahead and put your name in front of it if you want. But I'm pretty sure someone else has done it before. And so I'm just trying to take as much as I know from the mentors around me. I have a coach that helps me at the track actually. I was there sprinting by myself one day trying to figure it out. And I watched him. He recognized me. He's like, "Oh, you work with Prescript?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Cool." And then I watched him take off. I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Do you like compete?" He's like, "Yeah, I compete. Like speed's kind of my thing." And I was like, "Cool. Can you help me do that?" And so he ended up helping me out. So I've got a coach. I've learned a lot from some mentors that I have online. I've learned a lot just from doing it. I've done some research on it. I do believe that you can get faster. I think people that are born with it definitely have an easier time with it. Like I've seen that next level of athlete, right?
Yes.
You can tell you still need to work hard, but you can tell when somebody has that it factor. It's insane. They don't even try. It looks effortless. Everything looks like I'm trying really hard when I do it, which is fine. I don't care because I've gotten faster. But my roommate made a comment. She was like, I've never been super fast. And she told me she was a phenomenal athlete growing up, played multiple sports at the highest level, still goes out there and cooks everyone when we do beer league sports, like without even, she's one of those people that does things and it looks effortless. And she's always been really fast. And she told me a few weeks back, which I took as a huge compliment because usually like we just roast each other. But she told me, she's like, I always thought that people just either were fast or they weren't fast. She's like, I didn't think you could train it. She said, but I've watched you over the last year. She's like, you can train that. She's like, you've gotten faster. Like your mechanics look better. Like your times are down. She's like, it's cool to see. I was like, oh, thank you for not totally roasting me in this moment because I feel pretty good about it. But yeah, so it was a really nice compliment to get from someone who is one of those people where Typically, like moving was effortless for her, and for her to be like, no, like that's cool, you've gotten fast. I was like, okay. And again, not fast, but faster for me. And so, to answer the question, I think people can absolutely get fast. I don't think we'd have jobs if people couldn't get
Right.
fast from proper training, right? And so, there's that aspect of it. And then, as far as I think, anytime I teach anything, I take in I look through multiple lenses from all the different things that I've perceived. Similar to what I talked about with like the difference between like pain and nociception, what our brain perceives is based on all of our previous experiences. And so what I have from my previous experience is played a lot of sports growing up. I have an undergrad degree in biology with 2 minors. I have a master's degree in neuroscience. I have a dozen certifications in the fitness industry. I've worked alongside with some of the best coaches and the best athletes in the world. I myself have put my body through these things. And so when I coach, I've had coaches that have coached me. And so when I coach, I have all of those lenses layered on top of each other. And so I think that's why coaches look different when they do things, is we all have different lenses. We all have these different experiences that we're pulling in, and those are the best coaches. If you can pull in all of your experience and execute a session like genuinely from yourself with everything that you've experienced and done and tried, that's why it looks different. Because now it's coming from me and not coming from my track coach Janelle, or not coming from Killian, right? Like, I've taken lenses of what I've learned from them. I've taken lenses of things that I've read in papers. I've taken lenses of me going through my own injuries or playing my own sports. And so I think that's what makes it really cool and unique, is that I don't think I do it any differently than anyone else, but it's coming from me. So
Yeah. So with that, what do you feel is like a limiting factor that people have when it comes to improving speed? Let that be. Do you feel like it's a muscular thing? Is it more of a mental thing? Because you're learning when it comes to improving speed. I believe, from what I know, you're not really learning anything different. It's going to be more about the angles, the shapes, right? How you get into certain positions, and then, like you said before, cleaning up those techniques to make them the most efficient and proficient.
yeah, yeah.
So what do you feel are like some limiting factors that people have?
Sprinting is about being perfect. If your reps are perfect, you will be as fast as possible. If you can hold positions, like you said, I always look at it in shapes. If you can hold those shapes, hold those angles for just long enough, if you can have the perfect stride length, if you can have the most precise 20 steps you've ever taken in your life, you're going to run the fastest you've ever run. And so that's why sprinting is also really fascinating to me, is the precision that goes into it, which also makes it so frustrating. But I think that's the barrier for people, is because it requires so much precision, people definitely get in their head over it. And there's so many cues and so many things to work on. It's kind of like, the skill wise, it's kind of like, it's not like playing golf athletic wise, but skill wise, it's like when you're playing golf and someone's yelling 40 things at you, like, oh, keep your head down, adjust your swing, keep that arm straight, do this, do that, do this. And when you put it all together and you become really good at it as a skill, it's smooth. You don't have to think about it. You just go and you're sending it right down the fairway. Similar with sprinting. Once you've gotten good at these positions, once you've acquired these skills, you don't have to think as much. But when you're learning to be fast, particularly for the first time, there's so much that goes into it, so much precision. And I really do believe that what you're doing in the weight room has to reflect what you're doing on the track. Because if you're not executing proper strength sessions that complement what you're doing on the track, you're going to have a hard time getting fast quickly. I had a client come in this summer, hockey athlete. He wanted to make his junior A team, which at his age is the highest level he can possibly play. So uh, he wanted to make this team. And he said, the coach's feedback I got is that I need to get faster on my first few steps. I was like, cool. So I told him he had 6 weeks. He came in every morning to see me. So, okay, what I'm going to do, this is what I told myself in my head. It's not what I told him, but I was like, I'm going to map him out a program for the next 6 weeks. We'll adjust it as we go, as we feel necessary, but I'm going to map him out a program. And then I'm going to copy paste that program for myself. And I'm going to do the same thing, but with some changes. Because for him, we're focusing on skating speed. For me, it's running speed. So so obviously different mechanically, but same principles were applied across the workouts.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us got faster in 6 weeks. And he was only on the ice twice a week, and I was at the track 2 to 3 times a week. So it's not like he was skating every day. It's not like I was sprinting every day. So the fact that we were both executing weight room sessions 5 days in a row meant that those needed to be effective and they needed to complement what we were doing, because that's where both of us were spending more time in the weight room than we were actually executing the skill that we were trying to get better at. And so I think that's a huge thing too for coaches, is recognizing what neural adaptations need to occur to get faster. How can we improve these things, and where do they go in a program so that I'm not accumulating too much volume? Or back to your question earlier, how do I make sure I'm actually performing when I get back to the track? So
Yeah.
how can I mitigate this across the week to make sure that I can sprint as fast as I can when I'm at the track, but that I'm still complementing it when I'm in the gym?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, it's the transfer and carryover. You want, like you said, you don't want to add anything in that doesn't need to be added. And you don't want to waste any time that doesn't need to be wasted. It's like, it's almost, have you heard of Tony Holler, the creator of Feed the Cat system?
No.
All right, check him out. He's out of Illinois.
Cool.
He's a world renowned track coach. And his
Cool.
methodology of Feed the Cats, some people like it, some people don't, but it's like the sprint work that he does with the kids, it may be for a lot of coaches, they would look at it as the bare minimum. But
Mhm.
it's like, if I'm working with sprinters, we're just going to sprint. We're not going to waste any time jogging laps or adding any unnecessary volume. And we're going to keep the main thing.
Mhm.
From the sprint work to the explosive plyos that he does, I don't want to say like he does the bare minimum, but like every rep is meant to be done as perfect as you can make it, because you don't
Yep.
get that step back. So
It's
I
that
like
it's
that
that
a lot.
combination of, people like to use the saying, train smarter, not harder. It's like, no, you need both. You need to train hard and you need to train smart. And so when you hit that perfect balance of, you're going hard, that intensity's there every session, but you're able to maintain that intensity because you programmed in a way that allows you to do so, that's what's important, right? Yeah. So it sounds like that's what feeding the cats is all about. I
Yeah.
like that. Cool.
Can you break down like some of the differences between what you were doing in the gym, whether the exercises were the same, just the variables were different compared to what the client was for like his skating speed and your running speed?
Yeah, yeah. So we both had an element of frontal plane movement. I've been doing way more frontal plane movement just since I tore my ACL, because that was a gap that I felt was in my training before. Not that that's what caused it. There's probably 1,000 reasons why I tore my ACL that day. But I realized, I kind of reflected on what were gaps in my program. That was one. But hockey players, I put them through way more frontal plane movement than I do with any of my other athletes, because when they are skating, you're striding side to side, right? Hips are way more externally rotated. That's also something that I consider with my hockey athletes. So when I have them in the gym, I'll have them put into positions and hold positions that put them into more internal rotation through their hip, which I'll typically do with other athletes in other positions too. Like, if you get a big O lineman in, like, those guys are also totally externally rotated because they're constantly decelerating. They're constantly being pushed back. So their hips turn out. And so there are certain positions, hockey being one of them, where hips present in more external rotation typically than just like the average how you'd walk around in day-to-day life. So making sure that they get into internal rotation, making sure we're getting that stretch across the glute med, creating that lateral stability at the hip, super important for hockey players. Also important to make sure that I always get them to throw, like, we throw med balls all day with my hockey players, particularly in that transverse plane, and I'll have them like take a few steps laterally and then throw something that's getting a little bit of frontal plane and transverse action at the same time. And so I'm trying to think of some key things that were different for us. I'd say where I was spending more time in like a concentric focus with my single leg accessory work, whereas he was spending more time in that eccentric focus for his single leg accessory work too. And that had nothing to do necessarily with the speed. The speed elements, like those B series, were typically the same. If anything, they differed because of skill. So I was doing like hang snatches, but for him, I was like, I got 6 weeks with this kid. I'm not going to teach him how to snatch. So I'm going to put a heavy trap bar in his hand and we're going to do some power shrugs. So if anything, the main speed focused movements were based on skill. The accessory work is where it differed because he played hockey and because I was working on sprinting. So mine was more concentric, sagittal plane focus so that I could get better with my top speed. His was more eccentric focus to make sure that his hips could stay in a good position from a function perspective so that he doesn't get bagged out from skating and being in certain compensatory positions all the time.
Nice. I like that.
Well, let's see. Key, you got anything else?
No, I was my last question was, I was just thinking how some people, this is like for Gen Pop, but some people want to maybe begin sprinting, but they don't I guess understand how to, or don't know how to initiate it safely, and they end up getting hurt. Like, what would you, like, on a very baseline level, how would you coach somebody to being able to sprint in their program?
Yeah.
Not coach somebody, but basically lay out their program, because I know the intricacies are going to change depending on where the person is. But if somebody was listening to this and they wanted to get into sprinting, how would they lay that out?
Yeah. So the thing that I think people need to recognize, particularly if we're talking like in a Gen Pop setting, things might look cool, but your body needs to be ready to adapt to the stimulus. So when we're looking at skill acquisition, there's 3 stages of skill acquisition. You have cognitive, which is when something's new that requires the most work out of your prefrontal cortex to tell you where your body is in space because you've never done this before. Then you have associative work, that's stage 2. So that's when, okay, my brain's becoming more proficient at doing this. I'm minimizing co-contractions, so I can now load this maybe a little bit heavier. Then there's stage 3 of skill acquisition, that's autonomous. So that's when you don't have to think anymore. You just go. When you can get to the autonomous stage, this is the box that I tick for people. If you can get to the autonomous stage of unilateral movements that mimic gait cycle, so essentially anything on one leg, split squats, walking lunges, if you can become autonomous with that kind of work, I feel good about having you execute it really fast at a high intensity. So you got to be able, essentially, to put it in simpler terms, you got to be able to move things slow before you can move things fast. So if you can move things slow and you can move them heavy, I trust you to, I trust your body to move things fast. I trust everybody's mind. Everybody wants to do it. So I trust that, like, mentally you can get yourself there, but can your tissues handle it? Let's build your tissues up, make sure they can handle it. If I've got a Gen Pop client that wants to sprint and this is like their thing, they're like, yeah, I want to start doing this. Cool. Okay, awesome. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you proficient at moving on one leg in ways that mimic gait cycle. We're also going to account for other variables. We're going to make sure you can move through sagittal and transverse plane. Although sprinting is linear, let's just account for all those boxes of hip and torso function, right? So, because you also need your arms to be able to move. If you don't have a fast arm swing, you're going to have a fast sprint. But if my shoulders are trash, how am I going to swing my arms really fast? So that also goes into it too. So if we can execute these movements in the gym with precision and at a high intensity with load, perfect. Now we can start doing them fast in a gym setting. Where I'm also going to start to integrate some other stuff is, okay, now let's start adding some plyos in. Let's start doing some, again, you start with those more extensive plyos, things that we can rep out and things that are lower impact on the joint. So pogos, lower hurdle hops. Then we progress into intensive plyos. This is where we're really focusing on that, like, storing and releasing of elastic energy within that tendon, which is going to be required when you're sprinting at full speed. So now we're doing higher jumps, drop jumps, things like that. Once we can execute those things with good precision in the gym and they're moving weight fast, okay, now let's go out to the track. And that doesn't mean you can't have a single track session before then. You can still go out and do rudimentary drills, maybe do some like capacity work, maybe try a couple starts just to see how it feels. I'll tell people, like, okay, go 70% for 40 meters and let's see what happens. So it doesn't mean you can't go to the track, but you should be able to tick these boxes, and there are skills that you can build within the gym first if people really want to come to me and say, hey, I want to speed train. And I even have some clients. I have one Gen Pop client who I train online. She said, hey, I'd like to try some of the stuff that you're doing. I'm like, okay, I've been training her for probably 2 years now. So I know she can move. I know she can move a little weight. And so I had her go out and just mess around with A skips, B skips, things that are going to help mechanically with her sprinting, but aren't actually run this 100 meters as fast as possible. And let's see if you blow a tire or not, because I'm not down to test that out.
Pop your Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah, taking shots.
Sorry.
I still got one good Achilles.
No, that's great. So basically, it's a long time to prepare for those things, and I just wanted you to kind of share that because sometimes people think it's like you go and you decide, and then you go into the gym and sprint, and not realize you're going through different phases to prepare yourself to do that thing. So
Yeah,
thank you
yeah,
for
and
sharing that.
to be clear, that's to do it well and to not hurt yourself. People can do whatever they want. If you like, have you seen those dads that do the 40-yard dash to determine their fantasy football order and then someone blows a tire? It's like, man, if you want to go out and sprint 40 as fast as you can do whatever you want. I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But if people are coming to me and requiring my expertise, I'm going to be like, all right, here are the boxes we're going to check first because my name is now on this and we're going to do this well. We're going to do this together. So we're not just here to say that we did it. We're here to do it with a high level of proficiency. And that's
Yeah,
why the boxes are there.
yeah, love it.
You can dig it.
What are your training goals?
My training goals.
Yeah, like
So,
for the next 6 months.
yeah, leading up to coming here, it was a lot of sprint work. Obviously, in Canada, not a lot of tracks available this time of year. All the outdoor ones are closed, and the only indoor one I had access to was at my old university, and they have exams in December. So I was doing a lot of running on the assault runner on the curve there, focusing on speed coming here. For the next 6 weeks, the owner of the gym that I work at, he and another gym owner in the city have started this like Ottawa Fitness League, and it started out just like gym versus gym friendly competition, and now they've expanded to like open it up to anyone who wants to come out and compete. So they're running endurance based event on February 15th. And so my best friend and I signed up for that as for the doubles to do it together, and so that'll be fun. So we're doing kind of like an endurance race. So for the next 6 weeks, trying to get my capacity up a little bit more. I already know I'm strong. I know I got good running mechanics, and now it's just about making sure my legs can burn up because that's the kind of stuff I haven't been doing as much. So yeah, next 6 weeks focusing on more endurance, and then after that, I'm gonna go back to just getting super jacked, probably right through until the summer. I'm still gonna keep sprinting probably once a week, but I'm going to pull back from that being at the forefront for a little bit and go back to,
Hypertrophy.
yeah, in a sense, it's more so because coming off of this endurance race, I lose muscle so quickly, like so quickly. So as soon as that's why I typically avoid doing things that are longer in endurance. And so coming out of this 6 weeks, I know that I'm not going to lose strength. That's like a neural thing too, but I know that I lose muscle pretty quickly. And so for probably 4 months after that, just put some tissues back on. And then next fall, I'd like to ramp up with the sprinting again, or probably by the summer because more access to tracks. So literally my goals are seasonal, also depending on the weather because
So
I only have access to so many resources back home.
with all this sprinting, are you gonna actually open it up and compete in some free races?
Few people have talked to me about that. I might look into it. I'm gonna look into some races. My coach and I were talking about that. I've had people ask me about a bunch of different stuff, like the high roxes and the sprinting. If anything, I would do something more sprinting focused, just because I like training that way. A few people have asked me if I'm gonna do an apex. I don't know. There's a few things that
I was,
are.
I was
There's
gonna
a
ask
few
you.
things a few things I have in my sights. But I got some cool stuff coming up with work in the next few months. And truthfully, I'm always focused on getting better at my job. And my
Mhm.
being better on the track, being better in the weight room helps me be better at my job. But anytime I'm training for something, it takes away from some of that mental energy that I put into work. And it, so it's funny. I don't know if I've been looking at competing. I like to compete, but I also like being competitive with my job. And so we'll see where work takes me over the next 6 months first and foremost. And if I get an opportunity to compete somewhere, I'll take it. But
Yeah, I think Apex would be cool. I mean, it's on my radar, but we'll see.
yeah,
You gotta train for that one. I've been
I
doing high
think that'd be
rocks since.
fun. It'd be fun to train for, though. I think that
Yeah,
style of training is kind of in line with what I already do. I would just adjust to be more intentional. But yeah, I think that'd be fun.
because you still gotta push that mile out.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. That's you gotta like pain to do stuff like that. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'd be curious to see though what I could get my mile time down to. Now that I'm a better sprinter and more proficient with my running, I would actually love to see what my mile time could be if I trained for it. So might give it a go.
For those listening who want to carve out like their own lane, right, in fitness and performance, what do you wish someone had told you when you were first starting, as far as like even now with working for Prescript, having your own kind of brand and things like that? What are some things that you wish you would have known when you first started that you know now?
Hmm. Some things I wish I'd known. I wish somebody told me earlier, which I think, you know what? I didn't do a terrible job of it, and I was doing a master's degree, so there was only so much time left in the day where I wasn't exhausted and needed to sleep. But I wish someone told me earlier on to network and connect and reach out to coaches that I really admired, because although like I've sent out like DMs and emails to certain people and didn't hear back, but the ones that I did hear back from, it like has been career changing for me. And they were so gracious to give me some of their time. And so now when coaches reach out to me, I'm always quick to try and reply when I can, because I want to pay that forward because of the people that reached out to my like replied to my messages and were open to giving me an hour of their time, a week of their time. So reach out, connect, watch how the best people do it. And then the only other piece of advice, which I think is something I've lived by since day one, but something that I tell coaches all the time is this is the service industry and this is the people business. You know, you put people first, you'll have a very long career here and you'll be
Yeah.
very successful. So you just have the person that's in front of you, have that them and your relationship with them in mind and at the forefront of every decision you make. You'll be laughing. You'll laugh your way all the way through an unreal career in this industry. So yeah, network and reach out to coaches that you admire, and always put people first. That's the priority.
Awesome, awesome. Key, you got anything else?
Nah, I got the questions off my chest. So it's good.
Me too, me too. Before we close out, for people that want to learn more about you, follow you, possibly get some remote coaching, learn about Prescript, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find me. I'm pretty active on my Instagram. I use it pretty much just for business and then posting about my dog. So, Veronica Zukala, it's my full name. Zuccala is my last name. Toss me a follow, send me a message. I love interacting with coaches online. I don't always reply right away because sometimes I'm busy with work, but when I get a chance to reply, I always make sure I don't leave your message unread. So feel free to reach out. I love rapping with other coaches. This has been super fun today. So appreciate you guys. And yeah, if anyone who listens to this wants to chat, don't be afraid to hit me up.
All right, you guys. Once again, this is the No BS Fitness Prescription Podcast. Coach Dom, Coach Key, and our amazing guest Veronica. Hope you guys all enjoyed this one. Take some notes. This was great to go over things of strength and conditioning, sprinting, neuroplasticity, and your place in the industry. So have a great day and see you guys soon.
All right. Peace.